This is the Horizon Hobby Eflite Extra 300. It's a pretty big box. It's got AS3X and safe. You can limit the bank angle, so like a kind of angle mode, if you're familiar with quadcopters. Automatic self-leveling, it's fine, but I'm not sure an aerobatic aircraft like that should be attracting people who need self-leveling. It looks smartly packed though. Some bubbles on the covering. The wings are in two parts. The rudder has to be glued to the fin. The fin is tucked under there, so looks like I'm going to have to take this off. And more knifey knife. Oh, look at that. There's the spinner. A single carbon rod for the wing. And another one. Undercarriage in one piece. Plastic. I'm not sure about these spats, especially on grass. This will be the horizontal stabilizer. And no servos in there. So it looks like I'm going to have to set all of that up. Another one with the huge elevator, which is attached. Bunch of stuff in here. So it looks like it's not going to be as easy to put together as the FMS Hawk that I've been flying, which literally is just 6 screws. But I guess they got to fit it into this package somehow. Down here, a traditional wooden propeller, 13x6. Very light. And hopefully the manual, which I think I'm going to need. This is kind of funny. Just a capacitor sticking up between the wings. A little bit of foam that just needs brushing off there. So that's servo that side. And servo that side. Looks like it all needs connecting up. There's a canopy on the top, which looks like it's got sellotape on it, but it's not. That's actually to lift it up. So magnetic there. What we got here, EC3 connector. Might have to switch the connector. We will see. Big old motor at the front. Canopy underneath. Magnetic again. Not too sure about this. Spectrum receiver. Looks like everything's connected. Oh, there's that dangly capacitor. It's just all there on its own, I guess, to stop noise. I've not seen that before, but you know, I'm quite new to this electric plane world. So that's the stabilizer as well. There's a fair amount of glue of something on there. So I guess I'm going to be flying this one Spectrum until I can stick my own gear in there. Just simple controls though. Couple of cheat holes at the back. Slide the halves together. Yes, done that. Install 3 times 15mm screws to secure the stab halves. So this one went in okay, but this one, the servo was in the way. Now, you could just take the top off there, but of course, I think these come pre-installed, so I thought it'd be easier just to take the servo out. But yeah, you can't get to that with an Allen key or a hex driver. Something's got to come out. So now I've got to push this push rod through the bottom hole of the servo, and then this has just got a hole on it, and that just slides over there. Well, it doesn't fit in the bottom one, it fits in the one above it, and it does not say drill hole in bottom one, so it's going on that one. Easy. Apply epoxy or medium/thick CA glue to the rudder. Oh no. Hinge tabs slide the hinges into the hinge slot while guiding the tail wheel wire into the bracket. Important, do not get glue near the hinge pins. Allow for the glue to fully set before continuing. Ah, not glue. So there are little tiny slots cut into it, look. You can barely see them, but they are cut. So I got my 5-minute epoxy mixed up. It's quite tricky, this. The tail wheel has to feed through a little hole there. Then you put your glue on all of here. But to get it really close, the glue starts to edge up towards these hinges here. So you have to make sure that those don't get glued solid, otherwise your rudder's not going to move. Okay, so the rudder is glued in and dried. I've stuck this control linkage for the rudder over here. It just sort of pops in place, but I have a feeling that's going to have to come off again to possibly center it. You have to install 2 tiny flathead screws either side, and I think that is supporting the tail wheel in here and all of this as well. So one of those on each side. Then I've installed the undercarriage. Very simple. You just push the undercarriage into the slot, and then it's 4 bolts on top of that. You can remove this canopy underneath here, and that gives you access to the receiver, where they provide this extension cable for the 2 aileron servos. I think that sticks through the middle there and attaches to the wings. This entire part here is made out of plastic. It kind of doesn't look like it is, but the entire surrounding and what this bolts into, you can see that bit's foam, this bit is a clear plastic. So there is a lot of strength there for the undercarriage. The wings slot together with the carbon rod going down the center, and then this overlaps there. Of course, it goes into the center of the model, and then underneath the model you can access that bay there, and the screws actually go up into these screw holes, and there's 4 of them there. So it sits in the plane, something like that. Slight anhedral on the wings, meaning that they tilt down rather than a dihedral. And then we've got some slots here as well for the servo wires. I've also discovered that this canopy at the front is also magnetic and comes off, so you can get a good look at the motor up the front here. And you can get all of these as spare parts. Well, I say they're available as spare parts, but like everything, it's all out of stock at the moment. But when I eventually FPV this guy, I've got 2 options. I can buy another canopy and stick it up front so we get a nice downward view, or we can get a replacement canopy here for the pilot and stick the camera in there. So what do you guys think in the comments? There for FPV or there? It's just going to be line of sight on this video because I'm going to have to order these direct from the manufacturer, which is going to take up to a month, but I need to fly it line of sight first anyways to make sure everything is hunky-dory. The prop's quite interesting. So, very shiny wooden prop. I'll have to buy some spares of those. Hopefully I'll be able to get some. If not, then it'll just be a normal 13.4 propeller. So we've got this back end of the spinner here. So that goes there. And you can see there's a little nut. That is for this main nut here. And the spinner goes on in an interesting way. There's a hole in the top there, and then there's actually another one of these screws, and then that's going to screw down the hollow shaft here. So this is a Spectrum bind and fly model, although I'm not sure it's very bind and fly because you have to glue the rudder on and then you have to put the control linkages in place. By the way, they are not preset, so you have to take the screw out of the servo and make sure everything is centered as well. So yeah, I suppose they've got to get it in the box, but not really bind and fly in my opinion. Now the receiver that's in there is also a stabilizer. So for the maiden flight, I'm going to have to use the Spectrum protocol just to make sure that it flies okay. Now I don't have a Spectrum radio, but this is the TX16S and it's got the Spectrum protocol in there. DSMX is what you want to go for. Then eventually, you know, the plan is to stick Crossfire in there, maybe a separate fly controller to put FPV on it. So if I go into the model down here, so this is a multi-protocol transmitter, and you can see here that I've got the protocol as DSM and then X over here. You can select DSM2. Don't do that. That means you only get 2 hops of the frequency. You get lots of problems with that. However, I'm not expecting great range with this either. You know, be lucky to get 100 meters without the thing buzzing at me. So yeah, it's going to have the receiver changed. I'm sorry, team failsafe is how we call Spectrum in the FPV world. But yeah, to bind it, you don't get given a bind plug in the box, so that's something that you need. So it's a bind and fly with not the ability to bind. I suppose they expect you to buy the Spectrum transmitter, and maybe that comes with a bind plug. It's a little servo plug that shorts on one of the channels of the receiver. It's got all this AS3X and safe. Not interested in that. So you bind on here, and then you put the bind plug in the plane. You plug your battery in. By the way, I'm using a 3200 milliamp hour 4S for this one. You can do 3S, but it's not going to have the power that I want, so going straight for the 4S. They say a 22 1000 milliamp hour to a 3.2, so I'm going for the biggest one. But anyways, when it is bound, you then leave the model turned on and unplug the bind short, and then that gives you what seems to be the flight controller with its most minimal input, so kind of like an acro, but it's still doing stuff. And then for the amount of control, if I page over, if we go to the inputs page, you can see that on aileron and elevator, I have got 40% expo. This is just for the Maiden, and then just 54% on the control movement for aileron, and 66 for the elevator, 68 for the rudder. I just basically want to get this thing flying. It's probably not going to be able to do any 3D with those movements, but I'm not sure how reactive that's going to be. It's going to take time for me to set it up so that I can do hovering and stuff. I'd probably try a hover, but I don't think I'm going to get it with those control movements. The idea of these 3D models is that you've got ultimate control movement, but obviously if there is too much control, then it can be very twitchy. So for the Maiden, just, you know, being very conservative on these controls here. Let's give that a try. Dit. Alrighty, let's go for a takeoff. Got a pesky thing following me. And it's raining. Of course it is. Oh, it's getting for a bit of a stall there. Nice, nice snappy movement. Turns out the flight controller is doing stuff. How you liking that high alpha wing waggle? That's got to be the flight controller that's doing that, I reckon, because it's like rocking back and forth.
Could just be the character of a tapered wing section.
Yeah, it could be. But when I, so it's kind of like a high alpha that I put it in. Easy to follow, is it, Phil?
Nope, keeps changing directions.
Oh yeah, that would be me. That looked a bit close. Amateur hour at the hover factory.
Whoa!
Whoa, that looked close.
I saw your wingtip coming straight at me, man. Punch out.
Yeah.
So how much do these retail, Andy?
300 something.
I can't afford that. I'd have to buy a balsa wood tree and make one.
The thing is, Phil, you're used to getting stuff for a tenner from swap meets.
I'm a tight ass.
So am I. Right, gonna go for another hover, so oh, not enough rudder on the off. Yeah, so I've got this really sort of got the movement limited, and it's not quite enough to give me enough authority for proper messing about. Nah, need full up in and she just won't do it. What's your camera looking like, Phil? Bit of rain on it?
No, it's the sky's proper grey and weird, man. This field just isn't one like shade of green, there's many shades. Light conditions are terrible today.
Yeah, it's overcast and rainy.
If you want some follow-on practice, definitely go after a 3D aerobatic machine. I'm trying to keep like a good 60 foot away.
Get your fingers
just so as to
twitching,
play
huh?
catch up when there's something good going on.
Ah, I get you.
Because too close, there's going to be snow.
No snow. Like hovering. Attempted hover, not enough rudder in the opposite direction. Fly you to me arm. The wind's gotten up just enough. Yeah, not enough authority on the controls. But it's good to be conservative with stuff on a Maiden. Yeah, I think that does feel like the flight controller kicking in.
Okay, that's me toast. I'm burned out.
I think this one's going to be, I've been doing as much hovering as you almost.
Safe.
Yeah, that is what it's called, safe. I'm not sure I'm into it.
All the bad jokes today. On a patch.
Yeah, I think there'd be too much rain on my camera, Phil, to have picked anything up for this. Shame.
Just turning off my DJI digital FPV quad.
What is he doing? Oh, beeper didn't like that. I'll have to land, Phil.
Okay, you're clear, mate.
Hopefully don't tip stall it.
Nice.
Ah, watch the end of the patch.